If I had my gray shirt, I would be wearing this button, "Make America Think Again." And I think it's more true with this election than ever before, at least in my lifetime. I'm just shocked with what's happening, and I think if we can start thinking about move to amend and the influence of corporations and the power of money, that's a real problem. And that's one reason why we're here. Okay, I'll start. I went through Greg's website, Move to Amend website, movetoamend.org website, looking for interesting topics, and I came across one that relates to our election, and I thought, wow, this is just perfect, because that's what we're all about. Greg is involved with Move to Amend at the national level and is co-author with his team with this particular presentation I'm making. It's entitled, "Questions We Would Have Asked the Presidential Candidates." And of course, less than a month ago, we had our two presidents. The moderators of the ABC-sponsored presidential debate offered questions on a range of issues. They ignored, however, a major set of questions. It Moved to Amend, instead of ABC, had moderated the debate. Here are some of the questions they would have asked to include. Good evening. Welcome, former President Trump and Vice President Harris.
Hi.
Yes, excuse me, can you talk into the mic a little bit more, because your television audience would like to hear you. And it is audible, but can't hear.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Okay. You can disengage it and put it right by your mouth.
You can hold it if you'd like.
There, we could do that.
There you go. That's
Take off a minute. Please.
Talk to him.
We'd like to begin tonight's debate asking you, both of you, the following questions. Number one, each election season has set new records in money raised and spent since the 2010 Citizens United Supreme Court decision. The 2024 presidential and congressional elections are no different. Do you support overturning Citizens United? Number two, the corrupting effect of money donated or invested in elections from the super rich precedes Citizens United. It originated in another Supreme Court decision in the 70s that defined money as First Amendment protected free speech. Do you believe money equals free speech? Third question, the Supreme Court in yet another decision asserted that corporations for the first time had the First Amendment political free speech rights to spend or invest money on political elections. Do you believe any corporation, which may have literally unlimited economic resources, should have First Amendment political free speech rights? Another question. Many environmental scientists claim that a fundamental way to prevent the further destruction of our climate is to keep fossil fuels, oil, gas, and coal, of course, in the ground, versus finding cleaner ways to burn them. Doing so would likely result in fossil fuel corporations claiming Fifth Amendment rights, resulting in lost future profits of tens of billions in compensation. Do you agree that individuals should have the right to a livable world over fossil fuel corporations claiming Fifth Amendment constitutional rights that are intended under the Bill of Rights to apply exclusively to individuals? Another question, one for former President Trump. You stated in 2015, quote, "The fact is that whether it's Jeb or Hillary or any of them, They're all controlled by these people, and the people that control them are the special interests, the lobbyists, and the donors, unquote. If you sincerely believe money in politics is a huge problem, would you, if elected, do everything in your power to encourage Congress to enact the We the People Amendment, House Joint Resolution 54, that would allow we the people to regulate money in elections and end corporate rule? Vice President Harris, when you ran for the U.S. Senate in 2016, you took Move to Amend's pledge to amend, which states, quote, support amending the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations and other artificial entities do not have constitutional rights, and that money is not speech and campaign spending should be limited through regulation. Would you, if elected, do everything in your power to encourage Congress to enact the We the People Amendment, House Joint Resolution 54, that would allow we the people to regulate money in elections and end corporate rule? I wish I had time. I would go on with 4 or 5 other questions that focus in on this power of corporations and the influence of money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Andrew Rome.
Name and address, and if you have a copy of that, your concerns, leave it with the clerk.
My name's Andrew Rome. I'm at 2063 Conwell Road in Stowe. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Rome, and I'm the director of Haymaker Farmers Market here in Kent. I'm here for Democracy Day because I believe that supporting local businesses, not the interests of big corporate lobbyists, is what makes our Kent community such a vibrant and thriving place to live, work, and play. Thanks to Bill Weiland for his invitation to participate and speak to council today. And thanks to the City of Kent for ongoing support for Haymaker Farmers Market. Kent leases the Franklin Avenue parking lot to Haymaker each year at a very fair discount price, thank you, and supports us by maintaining the parking lot, allowing us electric, post signs around town, funding our Music at the Market program. And Haymaker is proud to contribute to Kent's downtown with 39,000 customer visits in 2023, over 1.4 million in economic impact with our 63 vendors, 106 artists and musicians, and 18 nonprofits and community organizations participating. We've been growing for the past 32 years since our founding, and we're excited to continue to serve the Kent area food and agriculture businesses by making local foods more accessible to everyone. We participate in all the food assistance programs possible, even creating new ones with our local partners, distributing over $76,000 of food assistance last year. Everyone deserves healthy, fresh, local food, and in Kent they can get it. The good work happening in Kent is not the norm. Especially during this election season, we can see the dysfunction of government when it is steered by the interests of big corporate donations. Our national food system subsidizes cheap, unhealthy, processed foods with profits taken out of our community rather than reinvesting in our local producers. Our national debate over the Farm Bill renewal has stalled again, and the debate centers on proposed cuts to the SNAP food assistance programs, the biggest portion of that bill's spending. And this isn't abstract to us in Kent. Our largest food assistance program is SNAP, which we offer with double benefits for the purchase of fresh fruits and vegetables at market. This is a real win-win. We support local businesses and feed local people. We can't fix all our national politics, although Move to Amend offers a positive way forward. but we can continue to grow our local food system in Kent. I'm always glad to see council members at Market, and I've been so happy to work with Bridget Susel and Jim Bowling on Market projects this year. With local sponsors, Haymaker is expanding our Market Stanzas public art mural under Haymaker Parkway Bridge. Thank you, Jim. And with the Kent Health Department, thanks to Joan and Jaleesa, we started a grant-funded produce prescription program distributing healthy food vouchers to Access Point patients. I hope we can count on continued support from council and from the city for Haymaker's programs and for our locally controlled food system, not a corporate controlled food system. Thank you for participating in Democracy Day and for all your great work in our community.
Okay, thank you.
Greg Coleridge.
Name and address for the record, and if you have your concern on paper, please give it to the clerk.
I don't think this quite fits.
Roger, can you?
There you go.
Oh.
Good evening. My name is Greg Coleridge. I'm the co-director of the National Move to Amend Coalition, 3016 Somerton Road. I live in Cleveland Heights. However, growing up in Akron, it was always a treat to come to Kent. First as a child to see my much older brother perform piano concerts as a graduate music student, and later on to hang out and to speak to student groups on campus, as well as at the UCC or the UU churches, or to attend Kent Friends Meeting. Among the many impressive and unique features of Kent, Ohio then, and I like to believe still now, are the number and diversity of local businesses. They give Kent character. They also give Kent an economic anchor. Local businesses are generally more accountable and responsible to their patrons, since the owners are, for the most part, local. And that makes sense. What absolutely makes no sense, however, is the weapon that many big box and other chain stores and businesses have used across the country to come into communities that local public officials like yourselves and local businesses sometimes don't want. Local communities that have tried to protect themselves against the invasion of unwanted chains, including providing, say, special support for local businesses, have often been sued or threatened to be sued on constitutional grounds as, get this, being discriminatory under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The 14th Amendment, if you recall, was one of the three post-war Civil War amendments meant to provide various rights to formerly enslaved human persons. It wasn't long, however, after its passage that corporate lawyers claimed that corporations were persons under its due process and equal protection clauses. If discrimination against former slaves was unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment, then corporate attorneys with straight faces argued that obviously discrimination against corporations was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court, composed of several railroad attorneys at the time, agreed. Thus, the corporate hijacking of constitutional amendments began. Local communities trying to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their community residents and businesses were preempted or perverted by the so-called constitutional rights of corporations. Corporate constitutional rights reduce your power and authority as local public officials. The same goes for citizens who might want to pass a ballot initiative protecting their community in any number of ways. Corporate constitutional rights are a fundamental threat to self-determination, self-governance, democracy, sovereignty, the right to decide, whatever you want to call it. Corporations have since hijacked many other constitutional amendments, including the 4th, 5th, First Amendment right not to speak, and, of course, the First Amendment right to speak, which, along with the Supreme Court decision equating money with free speech, has resulted in the complete hurricane or tsunami of money into political elections from the super rich and corporate entities that is drowning out the right of people without money to have their voices heard, needs met, and communities helped. Yes, the 2010 Citizens United Supreme Court decision widened and deepened the political power of corporate entities to influence elections. Yet, if we reverse that decision tomorrow, the many other forms of constitutional rights that corporate entities have hijacked would remain. That includes the inability of people like you, local public officials, to promote in fundamental ways the health, safety, and welfare of your residents, the community, and the local environment. This is why it is urgent to enact the We the People Amendment, HCR 54, which would abolish all corporate constitutional rights and the equally bizarre and undemocratic doctrine that money spent in elections is First Amendment protected free speech. More than 700 communities have passed municipal resolutions or, like Kent, citizen-driven ballot initiatives calling for the enactment of the We the People Amendment. 26 communities in all in Ohio. And more than 780 organizations nationally have now endorsed this effort. I conclude by respectfully calling on you to consider reaching out to two things. One, to reach out to council colleagues in other communities that you may know here in the county or maybe other counties to consider passing a similar resolution, to join a municipal resolution, to join the more than 700 communities that have already done so. And two, if you are a member individually of any organization, political, faith, environmental, health, legal, community, labor, or any other type, I respectfully encourage you to urge them to join this growing movement. Again, more than 780 organizations nationally have endorsed this effort that seeks to affirm the constitutional rights of people over those of corporations. Information on passing a resolution or organizationally endorsing can be found at our website, movetoamend.org. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further?
There isn't anyone.
Oh.
Propaganda information, I mean, to pass out to.
Amy?
There isn't anyone else signed in.
Nobody else signed in? Okay.
Oh, Nancy. She came in late.
Name and address, and if you have it on paper, please give it to our clerk.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Warlock, and I live at 491 Earl Avenue in Kent. I had planned to speak this evening on the corporate influence of money in creating and maintaining Ohio as one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. But I'm a little emotional. I got a call this afternoon. It was the first time I've been able to be in touch with family in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm sure you all know what's going on there. And I spoke with my niece, who described her shock and devastation at seeing their home filling up with water, seeing trees randomly bashing cars, for seeing, instead of their street, a river flowing with portions of houses floating down the river, and just the inability to do anything at that time. The family is safe physically, but in order to get water, they had to, they remembered friends with a well, and they couldn't drive anywhere, and they were able to crawl through like a jungle of downed trees to get to this well, and and then carried this water back, because they had heard that if you don't live for 2 days, if you go 2 days or more without water, you can die. They managed to get to a grocery store, but all the store had were a few jars of cowboy caviar. And luckily, they are now on their way to Ohio. People there have been encouraged to leave if they can, to save resources for those who can't leave or have nowhere to go. And I read articles this afternoon on how this happened, what caused this. This was a place that people felt they were safe from the coastal hurricanes. And it is indeed a changing climate that is causing a warmer ocean, warmer temperatures on the surface of our planet, melting glaciers, and this is attributed to that change. And people say a couple degrees isn't going to make a difference, but I remember driving to Cleveland every day, and when I checked the weather, if it said 34 degrees, I figured I was safe on the roads. But if it said 32, I better wait until the salt trucks have gone. So a few degrees can make a tremendous amount of difference. And when I think about the corporate money, the energy companies who have contributed billions of dollars in order to deregulate environmental law, to buy off legislators so that they won't go there, and then to think, and yet to think that almost half the people in this country are poised to vote for a party that promises to abolish the EPA and environmental law. You all know this. I know from lobbying for various social justice things in Washington, D.C., that a personal story carries much more impact. And honestly, I couldn't talk about anything else this evening but what's affecting my family. So I thank you all, but please, as local legislators, please advocate for environmental justice and laws combating this climate change that we're not immune from. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Battery dead?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a new person signed in, Ray Gianni.
Ray, come to the podium, give your name and address, and if you have your concern, give it to the clerk when you're done.
Okay, Ray.
Right where she was.
So,
Oh.
My name is Ray Gehani. I saw a flyer that you were going to discuss democracy, and that topic appealed to me to come and hear what it is all about. What else would you like to know?
We want you to share your concerns with us.
So, I'm taking courses in peace and conflict studies at KSU. And I've taken courses in peace building and practicing peace building, and then this semester, community-based conflict transformation. And it seems that a lot of students are concerned with some prejudicial practices in the university and in Kent City. And some of them have repeatedly expressed that they are feeling unsafe. Now, I have taught for decades, last 26 years at University of Akron.
Back to him. We can. Yeah, this has to do with corporate spending, supporting different candidates for different reasons.
I have nothing to say.
Oh,
We're not trying to cut you off. It's
we're not
just-
trying to cut you out.
It's just,
No, I
it's a-
I didn't know.
It's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
ordinance that we have to do every October.
So I realized, and this is why I gave you the preamble. I saw a flyer. GPS took me to wrong places, and I'm here in the middle of a party, not knowing what I'm doing.
If you're free in 2 weeks, come back under council comments, so you can come back and tell us the story again.
What story?
Well, your concern. I thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Dave.
Border control?
Yeah.
We're going to do it in between, maybe?
Well, he wants to do it now. Amy, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, we're done. You know, thank you. We'll do what we can, as we always do, and hopefully we'll see you all next year at this time, and maybe things will be a little better. So, go with your border control.
Yeah, we'll do
Mike?
border control.
hearing.
Yeah.
$40,000 into it.
I'm going to call the order of the public hearing tonight. I realize we're a little bit early, but this is kind of one of those agendas we have to work with. So would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Amrine?
Here.
Ms. Selko? Here. Mr. Clapper?
Here.
Mr. De Leon?
Here.
Mr. Hook?
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish? Here. Mr. Sidoti? And Mr. Turner?
Yes.
He's here.
He's here.
Here. Thank you.
Was I late? I'm sorry.
The purpose of
Thank you.
the public hearing is for the zoning code tax amendment. Bridget? I got it. We're working on a lot of things tonight.
This is like a Chicago shuffle.
Nobody clears a room like that.
Code text amendment.
Okay,
Yep.
tonight's public hearing is to give the opportunity for comments on text amendments to chapters 1102 definitions, chapter 1103 zoning district land use and zoning map, chapter 1104 supplemental zoning district standards and overlay zoning districts, chapter 1106 general provisions, and chapter 1109 signs.
We had to change that because Cleveland's coming.
I don't know.
But I can do my other two.
You could do the other two.
These
All
are
right.
public hearings.
Is there any comment from the
Thank.
audience to Bridget about the public hearing?
Ask.
Mr. Mayor.
Not the public hearing's
Mis-
closed. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris?
Just want to ask the question. The public hearing is supposed to start at 7. So, but if individuals were going to come to speak, they might have
We're going to work
planned-
with that if that happens.
What, just restart the public hearing?
Reopen it.
Is that what we'd do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll check, we'll work with that.
Okay.
This is one of those agendas that we're trying to work with.
Always done it this way.
So,
That's first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah. Right.
All right, we're going to move into the committee structure. We're going to hop over the committee of the whole, and we're going to work right into Community Development Committee, Ms. Rosenberg, and we're going to move the two items, 4.2 and 4.3, till the end of your committee time.
That sounds good to me.
Well, we're going to we're trying to work with this one.
All right, that works. Okay, so in that case, we've got the zoning code text amendments. Bridget's going to come up and discuss that with us. Thank you.
I just would like to say it's unfortunate Garrett's not here. This was his favorite topic at every committee meeting, was the zoning text amendments.
Mm-hmm.
So the Community Development Department staff put together text amendments based on council's discussion with council with regards to codifying aspects of the design guide recommendations. In addition, as those of you that have been here for a while are aware, we are continually adjusting and amending our zoning code when we find areas that need clarity, or we're seeing that the public is not understanding things. So I did add some additional items to that, which I'll be going through as we go through the various chapters. So in the first section, it is 1102 definitions. We actually are removing the word accessory in front of building and structure, because recently we had a case, the assisted living facility conditionally permitted use that was out on South Water Street. For us in zoning, accessory structure is a noun, and it was defined in our zoning code to the specificity we needed to. And accessory use is also defined in our zoning code with specificity. Unfortunately, it led to great confusion for members of the public. And we did clarify it numerous times at the meeting. And we actually had some brand new members of the Planning Commission that also seemed to have some challenges with it. So Eric and I, after looking at many synonyms, decided we're going to make it subordinate. Because we do need to have regulations for an accessory structure and accessory building, because that deals with sheds, detached garages, things that you could imagine that would be in a backyard. So these first ones are literally that. It is just replacing the word accessory with subordinate, and I think I caught all of them. I also, our consultant, when we did our overall full zoning text amendment, used the word principal wrong. We catch them. I caught a lot of them, but not all of them. So we corrected principal and changed it to make sure that it matches. So if anybody had questions about those, we can, but really it's just replacing a synonym to allow clarity and differentiate subordinate building and structure, the noun, from the accessory use verb in the zoning code. The next section is dealing with the architectural design overlay district. This is where we are going to codify those design guidelines. If you may remember from our discussion a couple months ago, I referenced that I was going to address signs and lighting, because that is the primary issue that seems to come up most in the overlay district. We will be coming back in a couple of months, going to Planning Commission and coming back with another set. I'm envisioning doing this in probably 1 to 2 more sets and getting them all addressed. Basically, this codifies items that we had talked about at our discussion. I did have a typo. I believe you have the corrected version, but if any of you have a Roman numeral, lower Roman numeral 6, that actually is deleted. There's only 5. It was me cutting and pasting and not deleting them. So if anyone has any questions on those, I could speak specifically to those. We also amended Chapter 110906. This is our sign chapter. We basically put in there, it's always been an assumed, but because it came up in the design guideline recommendations, we are codifying it here, that any power source, raceways, anything all has to be concealed behind, and that will be citywide, not just the overlay district. We also did address neon signs. There was something in the design guidelines that referenced that we should not have those mounted as exterior facade on a building. It would be difficult to get that approved through the building code, but we are going to codify it in case people do come in. We actually at one time did have somebody come in with signs, cut out letters they had bought at Hobby Lobby that wanted to put up as a sign. So people do come in with strange things, so we thought we better just codify it since it was a recommendation. And then, again, also in 1109 under awnings, we pretty much had everything covered, but it did not specifically specify that awnings and canopies need to be constructed with materials designed specifically for outdoor use. And we did put that in there, just in case someone comes in with material that wouldn't be a canvas or a metal that would stand up outside. So those, if anyone had any questions about those, I can speak to those. We also, in the sign chapter, amended the surface coverage. So in a window pane, you are allowed, and you do not need a sign perm for it. The zoning code adopted in June of 2021 allowed for 50% coverage. Most people do not do that, or if they put it in, it has some clear and then the words. We had one property that had an opaque basically a sign displayed that made it difficult to see in and out, and we had numerous complaints about it. Those signs are down now, but we decided, since we were making amendments to this chapter, that we were going to reduce that in window sign coverage to 30%, just to bring it down smaller, allow more of making sure that 2/3 of that window isn't blocked by a sign. And the final item is not part of the design guidelines. However, because of some of the recent case law, not the most recent case, but we are very specific in our zoning code about occupancy and definitions for dwellings, and we continually explain to those who ask about it that you can't just look at one word. You can't just look at dwelling, you can't just look at dwelling unit, you can't just look at family. It is in an order. So we have a case which actually just had an appellate ruling recently, and when we were in mediation, I put together the table that you see here to explain to the attorneys in the opposing party how you actually use our zoning code. So it was kind of like a definition 101, you know, a quick snapshot. We actually used a lot of tables in our new zoning code to help people understand certain aspects of it. So we're including this table in another section where we talk about land uses. And it very clearly and succinctly identifies in what zoning districts certain uses are allowed and where they are not. So this is definitely not everything we would say to them, but we can now get them to this page, have them look at this table, and it'll help them understand, and then they can go back and look at the definitions that are referenced here. So that was the scope and scale of the text amendments. If anyone has any questions about these, I'm more than happy to answer.
Other questions from council?
Yeah.
Yes, Heidi.
Just looking at the table, there's two different, there's a dwelling apartment complex and dwelling multifamily. What's the difference?
So a dwelling apartment complex, you are allowed to have 4 unrelated in an apartment complex in the zoning districts that allow apartments as conditionally permitted uses. A multifamily unit has more units, but each unit is limited to no more than 2 unrelated or a family. So a multi-unit
Okay.
in an apartment or in a unit, okay, in a dwelling unit in a multifamily, you can have no more than 2 unrelated or
Got
a
it.
family. But we also added an apartment in basically the R4 and the U district as conditionally permitted to allow for 4 unrelated, because as you know, we have that rent per bed model of which we had, like we have at 3, 4, 5 flats. And those were then coming through as, they were trying to couch them as rooming houses, which we actually made a different definition for in 2016 to really tighten that up, because that was being abused throughout the city. So that's why our definitions are as specific as they are. Because a rooming house is a building that was formerly a single family that allows 3 to 15 unrelated. That is your typical house that you see on University or one of the fraternity houses on East Main.
Right. And we have a moratorium on the apartment complexes then? That
We
dwelling.
actually do not have a moratorium in place anymore. It was only until we adopted the zoning code and were able to add the conditionally permitted uses. So the apartment complex is a conditionally permitted use. I will say, since the adoption of the code in 2021, we have not had anyone come in with an apartment as a requested land use. Would have been great to have it back when we had all the student-oriented housing going in between 2012 and 2016, but.
I guess I just don't really see that clarified here.
Well, you're
That
looking.
they can only be in R4, correct?
And I think it's the U.
And the U district.
Yeah.
No, it says R4 and U.
Yeah. But a multifamily, you can have as conditionally permitted in other
Yes.
districts, because a multifamily could be like a 4-unit apartment complex, right?
Yes. Got it,
4
got it.
dwelling units, but only no more than 2 unrelated in each unit.
Yeah, I guess I would like to look at where the R4s
This is
are.
kind of why we did this, because it is confusing. You have to look at every single word in, like
I know.
single-family dwelling, you have to look at how it's single and family and dwelling is defined. So.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the zoning map.
Any further questions, Heidi?
Not right now.
All right. Anyone else from council have questions? All right. Anyone in the audience have questions? All right. Back to council. I do believe that Bridget is hoping to get a motion.
Do you,
Was it
can I
emergency?
interrupt though? Do you want to wait? I know a couple of you have been worried about it starting early. Do you want to wait on your motion until after 7 and come back? She's going to have other items come back after 7.
Sure.
So this way you give anybody that comes in at 7 a chance to at least weigh in on the topic. I don't mean, it's not really my place, but I
I
just,
think that sounds like a great idea to me.
are you guys
That sounds good.
comfortable with that?
Yeah, let's do that. Angela's here now, we can go
Yeah,
back
we
to
can
the
do her
park
thing.
thing. And I apologize because you're early too, Angela. This is one of the agendas we gotta work with.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. So most of you know, you've been introduced before to Oliver Wench. He is our Marketing and Special Events Coordinator for the Parks and Recreation Department. And I did ask him to join me on the technical side of things this evening so that he can get a little bit of a slideshow going in the background. So yes, he may need a little bit of this. So I am here this evening to provide an update on Kent Parks and Recreation and what we've been up to in our little corner of the city. I chose not to create a PowerPoint. This really isn't a presentation. I'm not here asking for anything this evening. I'm simply here just to give you an update on what we've been up to and what we are currently doing and what we have plans to do in the near future. Hopefully he'll get this set up and you can enjoy just a little bit of a scrolling slideshow. I think we chose some photos that actually give a nice visual representation of the impact that we have on the community. I was going to kind of give an overview of how our summer went, what we're doing currently this fall, what we're planning to do this winter. But one thing that I wanted to discuss is the fact that one conversation keeps coming up with multiple people that I have, and it comes to me through conversations that are shared with me that other people have. And that is not everybody knows exactly what Kent Parks and Recreation does. There's a lot of confusion with us and the Portage Park District. There's a lot of confusion with us and the Metro Parks, and there's also confusion with us and the Kent Local School District. We work hand in hand with all three of those entities, but we are definitely separate, and we have different responsibilities, and we maintain different areas. So I kind of wanted to highlight some of those things tonight. So while we do have a fantastic parks crew, and I cannot stress that enough, we have 5 full-time parks crew members who maintain our trails and more than 390 acres of parkland within the city. That consists of land within our 16 parks, which also consists of 2 athletic complexes, 12 unique playgrounds throughout the city, quality athletic fields. We have a concrete skate park, trails, river access, 15 indoor-outdoor rentable pavilions, and a recreation center. While these park amenities are extremely important in serving our community, there's so much more to our department than facilities, trails, and green space alone. The other component that makes up Kent Parks and Recreation is the, quote, recreation side of things, which is what I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit more this evening. As you can see from the handouts that I provided, in addition to parks and facilities, we provide childcare, athletics, and organize multiple community events throughout the year. We operate 3 state-licensed childcare facilities within the city. We provide before and after care services at our recreation center on Franklin Avenue, Davie Elementary, and also in our Little Learners Preschool on Middlebury Road. In addition to that, we offer 4 summer day camps, which consist of 9-week programs, and they provide themed activities. We do rock climbing, education, field trips, and more for over 114 kids on a weekly basis. Our child care revenue grosses approximately $350,000 a year, and that is 51,000 hours of child care that we provide to Kent families. Our sports division serves more than 3,000 participants annually and grosses more than $150,000. We operate year-round sports, which include soccer, baseball, wrestling, swimming, tennis, fencing, martial arts, field hockey, lacrosse, cross country, and that's only just to name a few. We are constantly evolving based on the needs and wants of the community, as well as the trends in the industry that are ever changing. Just 2 years ago, we partnered with the Cleveland Cavaliers so that we were able to offer a junior Cavs program to our K-3 little basketball league. And with that program, they get a Cavs jersey and they get 2 tickets to an in-season game to go up to a Cavs game. And for families or children who have never had the opportunity to attend a Cavs game, that's a big deal. And we're so happy to be able to provide that and partner with them. So we plan to continue that for the foreseeable future. Our sports programs consist of 63% resident participation and 37% non-resident participation, which those sports activities bring non-residents into our community through the form of grandparents, siblings, parents, aunts, uncles, and it's our belief that they do patronize the businesses here in Kent. They come multiple times a week year-round for practices and games on weekdays and weekends. We offer adult softball in the spring, summer, and fall seasons. We've had more than 90 teams participate in our softball program this year, which is over 1,000 participants.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Kent Parks and Recreation organizes a multitude of special events throughout the year, including Art in the Park, which attracts over 15,000 people into Fred Fuller over 2 days. Our Turkey Trot 5K, we had 530 registered runners last Thanksgiving. We have an adult egg scramble with over 300 adult registrants right before last Easter, a kids' Easter egg hunt, and Cuyahoga River Days. This past year, we were involved in the 2024 solar eclipse planning and created a mural to commemorate the event, which is displayed downtown near the dam. Recently added events, we included an acoustic fest in Fred Fuller this past summer, which was very successful and widely accepted. We had a great turnout for being a first-year event. We formed a new partnership and we hosted the Wizardly World 5K this year. And we've also held our second annual job fair in the South End at our recreation center. We plan yearly capital projects, which this year included the recently repaired and repaved 10,000 square feet section of the hike and bike trail. We also upgraded and replaced playground equipment in the Artemis Park. We were recently awarded $94,500 in ODJFS grant money, which allowed us to upgrade our recreation center with new flooring, painting, and painting throughout the facility. We added outdoor shade structures near the playground in partnership with Davie Elementary. And we purchased preschool curriculum, which can be used for years to come. We're proud members of the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association and actively participate in workshops and events. We attend their annual conference, which provides continuing education and networking opportunities, and refresh for new ideas that we can implement back here in Kent. We're extremely excited to learn that Kent Parks and Recreation was chosen to be the feature Parks and Rec department on the cover of the 2024 membership directory. While I've outlined a great deal of what Kent Parks and Recreation maintains and offers, we realize that there is consistently a need for expansion of services. And although we are limited with staff and funding, we continue to look at grants and partnership opportunities that would help us achieve this expansion. I hope that all of the information I provided tonight helps paint maybe a little bit of a clearer picture of all of the things we do. I'm sure I'm missing some things. It's hard to get that all together in one stream of thoughts. But in closing, I wanted to remind everybody our next big annual event is our 5K Turkey Trot. So if anyone here would need assistance in registering for that, I certainly can lend a hand. So I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Okay, are there questions? Roger? Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa.
Yes.
Well, he has his hand up, but he's pointing you.
Thank you. Angela, thank you so much for this really great summary, and I feel really lucky to be the liaison from council to Parks and Rec and to learn more about it. I have the experience of having children who went through the summer programs, and they were amazing. What do you think are some of the things that you would like for us to think about as for council to be supportive of parks over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think, we're going to continue to look into all the grant funding that we can, which will all come before council, obviously for acceptance and approval. We're always looking to develop new partnerships, and, we are working with Kent City Schools. A new door, I feel, has opened with partnering with Kent State Recreation and Wellness, which is a really exciting thing because I feel like that's been a bridge that we really haven't been able to cross for quite a while. So I think both parties are very excited about that. So really just coming in front of council, looking for that support, in whatever form that may be, whether it's agreements or grant approvals. I do think looking a little bit further down the road, we are going to have to be strategic about our funding streams coming into Kent Parks and Recreation, and that's probably something that will come before council as well. That of course we'll provide all the information and have open discussions, when the time comes, and that would be a great way to show support as well.
Thank you so much to you and your team for all the things that you do to make, Kent the place that it is, really special. So thank you.
Further questions? Robin?
Yeah, kind of interested. What are your expectations of the cooperative relationship between Kent Rec and Kent State University? What areas do you feel are going to be beneficial?
One area is they have space that can be utilized that we do not have. And that's one big plus. That's one big topic of conversation. It's also using that space in ways that we could promote the community, to the community, to get the community to kind of cross that threshold into going on campus or going into facilities that are located on campus, and utilize those spaces with possible programs that we are actually running and hosting.
Financially, you expect to benefit from that kind of cross-pollination with?
Yes, I would expect that if we ran certain types of programming that had user fees and participation fees, yes, and we would run registration.
Thank you. Somebody else. Heidi?
Yeah, I'll bring it up, but you don't have to answer it right now. I'm just curious as to the results of the surveys and what capital funding projects, what new features might you be pursuing?
The new features actually that we are interested in pursuing, we're now creatively trying to find ways to fund those first.
And then we'll find out.
Correct.
Got it.
Roger.
Yes, Angela, first of all, I think this information is so valuable, and hopefully it can get out into the community. As you said, a lot of people really don't know, but now they can find out. I do have a couple questions. I'm kind of curious. We have 392 acres of parkland, and we always hear the term best practices. As a community, is that, as a percentage of our city footprint, is that about right, or is it a little heavy, or is it a little low, or?
No, it's about right. I mean, a lot of our land is we can't develop it. I mean, a lot of it is, we have nature preserves, we have wetlands. There are areas nobody could build on it, and nobody could develop it, not just us as a department. But the areas that we do have that we can develop, I mean, we're pretty maxed out. When we talk about adding new amenities, we really have to think about possibly taking away others. Maybe cycling out some of the old and cycling in some of the new. Because, a lot of people look at us like we have a lot of land, but they are already kind of identified and earmarked as athletic fields, which if we take away athletic fields, we would have to build new ones elsewhere. We also are maxed out on parking and restrooms in a lot of those areas. So where it looks like, we could drop this in this park, or why don't you put this in that park? I mean, those are all great ideas to entertain, but we look at the logistics and we look at things like parking, where it would put such a strain on some of those areas that it wouldn't be feasible. So we have to kind of look outside of that box in the areas that we can develop.
Good. And how about the job fair? Did you feel it was successful? And
yeah, it's the second year we did it. We intentionally hold it at the Recreation Center, so it's in the South End. And I think, this past year, we did have a higher attendance than the previous year. We've kind of tried to tweak a little things, a weekend versus a weeknight, try to get some feedback and see, what seemed to be more desirable for people. So I think we just keep getting better, and we definitely had a higher attendance this past year.
Very good. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, can I
Yes, sir.
jump in? I think you probably remember back when she gave the synopsis, I guess, of the master plan effort, and I think that touched on some of the things that Heidi's asking about. Of those many things, what's coming down the pipeline, what's leading, following, et cetera. At that time, I kind of gave you a little early warning notice saying, I think you're going to hear us, city staff, slowly, I don't know when, timing is always important, try to find opportunities where we can have a conversation with you all in terms of additional funding for them. I mean, yes, the capital projects, and Angela and I continue to have conversations strategically about how do you do this, right? It's just like the downtown. We don't have the money, we didn't have the money to do the downtown, but we got a lot of grant funding, we got some partners, and we anteed up on our side too. And I said, you know, really that's a formula that worked. So we can redo that in a different area, just Parks and Recreation, and in some respects it's smaller even than the downtown was. But on the downside, there may not be as much funding opportunities, but I'm not going to say that yet. We haven't exhausted those, and we'll continue to go after that. I just want to let you know that it's on our radar screen. You know, this year, in a month, we're hoping that the voters do our general operating levy, which is super important. And so, you know, none of us are anxious to talk about any kind of new taxation, right? At some point, maybe we need to have that conversation. And I'm not saying that that's written in stone anywhere, but I've made that commitment to her. I'm like, if we get to that point, we will take it to council and we'll talk about it. We'll see what we can afford, what we can't afford, how we can do this. But we can't use the excuse of not having money to sort of let our investment that we've already made in the parks just deteriorate. It's done great, and they're doing great, holding it together. But I think we all know we could do better, right? And I know she's anxious to do better, and her staff's anxious to do more. But there's so many hours of the day and so many people to do it. So anyways, I didn't want to leave the topic. It's very much in, maybe not the center bullseye for us for this year, but it's on the bullseye. I mean, it's in that rings there, and we're consistently, she meets with Rhonda, I talk to Rhonda. I mean, Jim's over there. I'm always bugging him about the grant funding opportunities, because the one thing we did really well, hey, we need to do a street project. Well, or we need to do a sewer project. I said this to him last week. If we got to do a sewer project down by the river, can we also do amenities in the river? Can we do more trails? Can we, more park stuff? And he's like, maybe. So those are the kind of things we want to be more deliberate. And I guess I'm making that publicly, that commitment that you know that we're committed to that. And we welcome your input along the way, but it's not baked yet. But you'll continue to hear from us, and that's partly why she's coming back in, is we know how important it is for people to understand what they're doing, how it's going, and where their needs are. So that's it.
Any other questions? Chris?
On that note, I'm wondering about, so I know Heidi and I at least are grant writers in our life. I'm wondering about public-private partnerships, if that's something that you all have considered when it comes to parks facilities. I know Little Tykes is very close by, for example. That's just one example of many kid-related, play-related, fun-related companies nearby that may want to have a stake in future improvements. So just wondering, I'm sure that's been explored, but if that's something that we can raise again, or just kind of hear about more.
That's our wheelhouse very much. And, I mean, honestly, it wasn't planned, but the Klabens are here, and they very graciously partnered with Jim on hike and bike trail sidewalk work.
Wonderful.
And so we do that everywhere we can, I guess is if you have good ideas for that, or people, certainly send them our way. And I'd say the same goes for Angela. You look at sponsorship for her events, sponsorship for things is a common practice, right, in her business. So if you have more to add, I don't.
No, I mean, we do have a sponsorship program. I mean, everything from our our special events to each of our sports leagues. So, we do have sponsors for most individual sports, I would say, our larger sports. As far as the private, public, a lot of times that's a partnership when there's new facility builds.
Right.
Between medical facilities and, you know, maybe municipalities. So at this point, no, that's not, we have not explored that as far as, you know, facilities would be concerned. But as far as programming and events, we certainly have, but we could take that one step further as you're kind of, I think, suggesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Heidi?
Yeah, just to add on to that, because I was just like, you know, kind of caught up in this idea of synergy with Kent State and what that could be, what that could look like. And I'm, you know, thinking about that big open space called the Esplanade. That seems like there could be some interesting, maybe parks-related activities. And then I'm not really sure what your jurisdiction is like in the downtown. Does a park system have jurisdiction over Dan Smith Park, for example? Is that part of their?
No, maybe not.
Yeah, or, you know.
Gazebo?
I mean, we're still a
Yeah,
partner
the
in it,
gazebo,
but not the principal.
The
yeah.
gazebo?
The gazebo and down near the dam.
And down near the dam. Okay. You just, you know, just kind of just thinking about this synergy and examples of how we can create those parks-related activities in multiple places. I know my grandkids, little grandkids, love to go downtown. They love, you know, to check out the whole range of spaces that the city offers. And it's always nice to have kid-friendly activities associated.
And that's a separate discussion that's been ongoing, that we've been having, and it is, what can we do to bring families with kids downtown? Like, what can we put downtown that would be appealing, that would be attractive to families? So it kind of goes along with what you're saying, and we've also been having those discussions in great length as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Roger?
Yeah, on that point, I would suggest that we do have that beautiful entryway on the bridge that Jim and a number of people worked on that is really an access point. And I think that, to your point, Heidi, that maybe as conversations are going along, that could be used kind of as a focal point as to getting down to the park and those type of programs. But what I really was going to ask before that was, you know, one of the things that has dawned on me over the past few years looking at parks and recreation, access to the parks provides recreation. And I think that there are a lot of people my age that, and I'll pick on people my age because I'm old, that they don't quite, maybe a change in the title, Parks and Recreation Activities, might make more sense, because I don't know that people realize how much you do in that, under that umbrella that may fall under recreation, not necessarily utilizing park facilities or utilizing our parks. You know, I think marketing and I think helping people understand that could go a long way in any kind of fundraising, any kind of, I think at times, you know, I think if you do the same thing over and over again and you don't get the results you want in terms of those type of things, then maybe you take a step back and we look at that. And that just dawned on me, that it just seems that a lot of people want to separate out. You got the parks, and you have recreational programs. It's really one and the same, whether you utilize it. So somehow, if we can get that message out, I think that may open up a little bit more opportunities for private-public funding, maybe opportunities for people to take a second look at our parks program and understand how critical it is and vital in our community. Just a suggestion.
Any other questions? Gwen?
Just quickly, I just want to say how great I think this is. I was Parks Liaison before the master plan was developed, and I know that part of doing the master plan was specifically because it's more attractive for grants and things like that, to show that you care enough to invest the money to create a master plan. I know Jim Bowling's spoken to that before, that if you have a plan, then you can kind of proceed down some, you can really create the plans afterwards. So this is fantastic. It's exactly what was kind of set into motion years ago, and then since you've come on board, I know that you've done some reorganizing of staff and things like that in different roles, and I'm really excited to see in the future things that we can do together with the city and the parks. I know that our residents love it, and I think this is a fantastic step in that direction, and I just want to thank you for coming in and making your presentation today. Thanks.
Further? Okay, thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Nice job there.
We're going to move on. Any of the newer people came in, did you come in for the public hearing in that back row? No?
She's an employee back there in the bulkhead.
All right. Okay, Glenn, we're going to go back to you.
All right.
I apologize for all this.
All good, all good. Okay, so I'm going to pick up where I left off, or actually, rather, Bridget is going to pick up. So Bridget, just to catch everybody back up, Bridget. Okay, very good. Okay. So we're wrapping up the zoning code text amendments. So this is a presentation that Bridget had made about the changes to the text amendments. She is requesting a motion to adopt them. We went to the audience to see if people had questions. Some more people came in. Is there anybody here that has any questions about the zoning code text amendments? No? All right. Well, very good then. Okay, so council, we've already asked our questions, so we're coming back at you to see if there's a motion.
I'd like to move that we move forward and accept the recommendations that were made by Community Development.
With emergency.
With the emergency.
Second.
All right. Discussion?
No, this has been a long and arduous process, and I really appreciate all the effort that our Community Development Department has put into this. This is not easy stuff, and we all know that if we try to go through and read our own zoning codes. You know, we live with it, and so I appreciate it. I appreciate what we're trying to accomplish. I think it meets some of the standards that we want to see in our downtown overlay district, but at the same time, it gives flexibility to our businesses, and I appreciate that.
Further discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Passes. So we're going to go in order. So we're going to get 4.2, CRA agreement with Claiborne, the new Lincoln dealership building. Bridget.
Yes, thank you. Just to give a quick update, because we actually haven't had a CRA agreement in front of council since Mazda agreement about 2 to 3 years ago. So the city has 3 different community reinvestment areas. One includes the CRA 2 district, which is basically West Main Street. And I am here tonight to present 2 projects, which we're excited. We've been working with Rich Clavin and his team for several months as they formalize these to go forward. And the CRA program is a state program. What it does is it offers a tax exemption on the new investment. So it takes the existing valuation, the post-valuation, and the tax exemption, which I'll be talking about tonight, is applied to that difference for a set period of time. In a CRA 2, any agreements that were established after 1994 need to be done through a formalized agreement. So that's why I am here. We do have a CRA 1 that was put in place that covers the downtown and some of our industrial zoning districts that does not require council approval. For lack of a better word, they're automatic. But these ones do need council authorization. And one other final caveat before I go into the specific projects is that the Ohio Revised Code was amended last year in 2023. The school districts need to be notified, and over a certain threshold, we would have to, if the project was requesting over a certain threshold, we needed to receive a negotiated agreement with the school district. Both of these projects, in terms of their term and their exemption of 75%, are within the confines of it, and so the school was notified, but we did not have to negotiate anything separate with them because it just meets the Ohio Revised Code requirements now. So the first project is a new dealership. So I do have Rich Clavin here. president of the company. I'm going to have him speak to the specifics of the projects because they're pretty exciting, and I'm just going to deal with the boring details of the agreement. But the project basically is a real property investment. It is the CRA is just on real property. We no longer tax tangible and inventory. We used to back in the day. I'm telling you how old I am because I know Hope got through some of those too. Back in the 90s, we did tax those items. The real property investment in terms of new construction is for the new Lincoln dealership is going to be $3 million, and that includes $500,000 for the property acquisition and $2.5 million for the construction. So that is the part that will be in the agreement and subject to basically an exemption of 75% for 15 years. In addition, which is excluded from that, but also significant for the community, investment of $7 million and $150,000 respectively in inventory, furniture, and fixtures. I am going to have Rich come up. I'm going to, real quick, if I can, talk about the second project. They need to be voted on separately, but that way then Rich can talk about both projects instead of having him sit down and come back up, because they are kind of related. So that's the new Lincoln dealership. They're also basically expanding their service center, a $4.4 million investment in the construction of over 15,000 square feet addition to allow for expansion of their service center operations. They do a lot over there. You'll all see the Amazon trucks. They actually have a contract to basically address that. They have specific requirements and training that is extensive. So they do a lot of activities over on West Main. That project also includes $800,000 investment in machinery and equipment. That is for 75%. And for projects that are expansions or renovations, the term period maximum is 12 years. So that one will be 12 years. At this time, I'd like to invite Rich Clavin up and have him talk about the projects, and then he can answer any specific questions you might have about their activity.
You got to earn your keep.
Yeah, I get it.
I'll answer the hard questions.
So I guess I just give everybody a little background maybe is the best thing to do. So obviously, we've been in the car business for a long time. We started in Northeast Ohio in '73 when I was a lot younger. And my dad, we actually came here from upstate New York because of the opportunity in the car business. We had a major recession in the late '70s that actually opened a door for us to move to Kent. In fact, it was a closed dealership. There was a lot of closed dealerships in '78, '79, '80. We thought interest rates were high this last year. That was when prime hit 20%. So anyway, things always work God works in strange ways. And when most dealerships were closing their doors because it was just too hard to pay for the inventory, and at the time when nobody was buying cars, my dad had an idea, and he met with the people at Chrysler. And as a car dealership, the only way that the manufacturer will take back a car once we buy it is if we go out of business. So it's kind of a difficult thing. They will not take a vehicle back. Once we buy a new vehicle, it's ours. If it takes 2 years to sell it, it's ours. And obviously we have most of that on inventory floor plan lines. So he had this novel idea that you could either lose another dealer, or you could lose a dealer and open me up with a different dealer code and just take back part of my inventory, and we've already got a closed store out there. So that's how we came to Kent. And then over the years we grew, and we got, I think at one point we would agree that we probably got a little bit too big. And the thought was that we would kind of shrink down, get rid of anything that wasn't automotive related, and anything that was more than 45 minutes away, we sold. And the reason for that is that if it was more than 45 minutes away, then we as members, the ownership and leadership team would make excuses of why not to go there. And then it ceases to be a small business that's run by the family. So it just happened to be that Kent became the core. And it was actually a good thing, because we've watched Kent grow. And what's happened in our industry is you probably heard a lot about, or a little about, is that You know, this used to be a large market. Most of the franchises that exist in Northeast Ohio date back to the early 1900s, 1920s, 30s, 40s. The last of them probably came in the 50s and 60s. And that was during a time when, you know, the Cleveland ADI was one of the largest metropolitan areas in the country, so there was a lot of dealerships. Well, you know, we've seen a flight of population and jobs and whatnot, so there's been a shrinkage, but the franchises have been around that long because of franchise laws. So it's really tough to, you know, a franchise can hang out as long as they don't mind losing money. But what we've seen over the years is that this is kind of a nice place to be. Not kind of, it is a good place to be. We're close enough to all the main arteries. I mean, it would be great to be in some of these areas where you pay a lot more to be, and it's a lot more accessible. But we're about 5 miles away from all the major thoroughfares. The university is a phenomenal, you know, I guess it's a basis for the city. And you know, I work here. I spend most of my life in Kent, and you know, not too long ago, I drove into Kent State University for a meeting, and I was blown away. I was lost. I couldn't believe what's grown. And you know, we got good school systems. We got people who actually want to live here and move back here after they've, you know, got older, went to college, and decided to come back. So it's a great community. And you know, and when Dave first came to town and told us about what their plan was, it's hard to believe that we've actually made a lot of progress. And so we felt that, you know, we're going to continue to do what we do best. We're not going to sell to a public company. For a number of reasons. It would affect our customers, our employees, and then what the hell would I do? But it's, you know, what we found is that as the world continues to get more corporate, everything's commoditized. And the thing that separates us in business is just like the thing that separates us in every facet of life it's the people. And then when you start treating people like a commodity, is when it goes south. It definitely. So it's a lot of hard work, and one of the things that we've always focused on is the fixed operations side of the business, because that's where we retain most of our customers, and that's where we also deal with most customers. So, so again, over time, the manufacturers are trying to reduce their dealer count, so that all the more we have been supportive of that. And what that means is to take a dealer out. You know, the manufacturer can't just take the franchise away from them. So essentially, a group of dealers and the manufacturer, with the manufacturer support, get together, buy that store, and close it. And so that you get less points. And a lot of that has happened. Maybe you've noticed it. There's a lot more of it that's going to happen. So we still plan on being a part of that. And then sticking to what our core business is. And so in terms of the Ford Lincoln store, is one of the reasons. Well, we bought Lincoln at a time when nobody wanted Lincoln, but it made sense. It's in Kent. We had a piece of property that we really didn't need at the time in 2009. But again, if we sell that property, it's probably not going to be a very good choice. It's not going to happen. The right thing's not going to happen in that piece of property, and it's going to be right across the street of our Lincoln store. So we hang on to it, and we just look for other ways to expand in the automobile business. So we've come to a point now where we've got 7 mobile service vans on the road. We have a heck of a lot more people working in our fixed ops department that we really have a need for, but we're looking at it from a growth standpoint. And again, probably not this is never a perfect time, but we have been working very closely with the manufacturer to expand. And primarily, we want to expand in terms of fixed ops, because that's where most of the interactions go. And it takes a lot of investment to work on these cars. And even though, you know, we're going to more electrics and maybe less moving parts, there's still a couple of things that are happening. One is cars last a lot longer. 2 is cars are more expensive. So, you know, you have a lot of people buying used cars. You know, when I first started, if you had told me somebody had a 10-year-old car that was putting a new motor in it, I would say that they're crazy. You got to stop them. That's the worst thing you could do. But today, we're seeing that happen on a daily basis. And these cars last. I mean, they last a long time. So we are continuing to grow. We definitely need to expand in terms of the infrastructure. It's a little bit concerning because we are thinking about the future where there's going to be less need for some of the things we're doing, but we also think that there's going to be a lower dealer count. They're good jobs. The jobs in our technicians are on average, they're the highest paid employees in the organization. They're also the most skilled. We hire them. We try to hire them out of high school or when they're first in some kind of a trade school, and we invest a lot of money in people. We have found that it's not easy, but when it works, the payoff is unbelievable. You have to have courage, and you have to stick with it because you're going to invest. We don't have anybody sign any contracts, and we help them with tools. We pay for their training and then pay them while they're at training. And every once in a while, it doesn't work. And if you think that, okay, we're spending too much money, we should stop this. But then when we look at the success stories, like right now, we have more master techs under the age of 30 than over the age of 30. And if you had have asked me that 10 years ago, I'd have bet you the dealership that couldn't happen because it was so hard to get them to that level. It really isn't if you give them the tools they need to get there. We got people that are driving an hour to come work here, and we've got master techs that are the highest paid people in the store. The good thing is they're productive. I mean, they're earning their keep, and so we're looking at doing a major expansion to the service facility. And the time we're doing the expansion, we're also going to take into consideration the additional infrastructure that we need for electrics, which if you've been by, you've already seen it. We've got over $1 million tied up in electric chargers, infrastructure that we probably won't really get a return on our investment until I'm probably long gone, but we know that's where we're going. And everything that we did was based on what's best for the customer, what's best for our technicians. They told us that we only needed this many. We said, no, we can't do that. You can't have a tech have to take a car out 100 yards and have it charged. So we're building this, and we got to stay within the confines of what we have to work with, but we're adding pretty close to a net 20 bays, and then we're redoing the entire store. We're doing it over.
Wow.
So it's going to be a long-term project. And there'll probably be a lot more investment, but we're going to do it right. And it's difficult because you have to stay in business while you're doing it. So that's why the phases. But when we get done, that building won't look anything like it is. Everybody in that department, whether it be parts, mobile service, the techs, the administration people, will all be working in new surroundings and upgraded surroundings. So, and it's to make it better for the customer and to make it better for the team. Because that's who's ultimately helping us pay for it. So that's a big deal, and we know that will continue to drive ancillary business. We know that one of the reasons why Enterprise is staying in Kent, it's not just us. It's Kent State University. They like being in Kent too. It's a great area for them to be in. They don't have the issues they have in some of these, when they're in some of these areas in Cleveland. They got people that would rather come here to work, and they recognize that, again, they've got a bunch of dealers in a very close proximity to utilize them, so they're talking about spending a bunch of money, which is great, because it's a win-win for everybody when we can keep a tenant like that, who we know isn't going anywhere. And so we've got that's working out, and then part of our deal with Ford and Lincoln is that Lincoln wants a separate showroom, so we're going to do that. There was some concern there about if we were even going to be a Lincoln dealer, because they've cut their ranks by half in the last 3 years. And so if you probably haven't noticed, but in our market alone, we're down to 4 Lincoln dealers in Northeast Ohio, 5. in Northeast Ohio. If you go out in Northeast Ohio, you got to go to Columbus or Pittsburgh or Buffalo. So that would be, again, there's going to be more throughput. Again, it's a luxury store. It's not huge volume, but more throughput, both sales and service. And we've been doing a lot of this hiring of folks in anticipation of this, but there's still going to be some additional net hires. So again, we want to, it really comes down to it's a win-win. It has to work for, you know, I remind everybody every day that we have a responsibility every time we come to work and open the door. We have a responsibility to our customers. We have a responsibility to our team members. We have a responsibility to the community we live in, and we have a responsibility to the owners. And there's no one that takes a precedent, that takes priority. Because if we don't have a great team, we can't service the customers. And you know, we have to be a part of the community. When we were doing the work at the expansion with the Jeep facility, you know, we went and knocked on people's doors and said, hey, if there's any issues, you got to let us know, because our intentions, you know, what we don't know might be a problem, but you got to let us know. And, you know, and if somebody's driving through the street too fast, you got to let us know, because we want to know. We live here, we work here, we want it to be right. And to be honest with you, we weren't sure about timing, we weren't sure about how big this was, but after meeting a lot with Bridget and her team, we just had a lot more confidence. We felt like a lot of the things that we thought were going to be roadblocks may not be roadblocks if we just involved them going in. As long as I can keep my brother away from Kent as long as possible. We're in good shape.
We know how to work with that one.
And that's really it. It's just to strengthen the core. We're not going anywhere. We do have the next generation. We have a family business, but as I was reminded when I was young, that there's no birthright to work in the business. You have to want it, and you have to. It's not for everybody. So between my brothers and I and my brothers have a total of 13 kids, and there's 3 of them in the business, 2 of them in Kent, 1 of them in our Warren location. My one son, who's in the business, worked for E&Y for quite a while after college, and he came to me when I was talking about, you know, we got to have a succession plan. He says, well, you know, you pushed me out. I said, yeah, I pushed you out because you got to want it. I said, this is a family business. You can't change your mind. So, but he's engaged, got a lot to learn. You know, I'm still learning. But we like the area. I live 5 miles from the dealership. And by the way, I love the bike trails. I have that. My short route is here to Peck Road and back to the dealership, and it's my mental therapy as well as physical. But yeah, that's essentially it. That's our model. We're going to stay a family-run business, but it's a very large, small business. And my job is to make sure that everybody here that does business with us as a customer or that works for us has got the resources to do their job. And then if you do that, it works out better. And so that's our model. We plan on being here a long time. We want to be a good neighbor. And you know, over the years, maybe we weren't all the time, but that is our intention. That's why we get up every day. In fact, Dave was instrumental in, nobody even knew that the Toyota store was going to move, which obviously they changed their mind, but it took you guys helping him get the land that he needed to buy a franchise that Toyota wanted him to have that doesn't even exist anymore. But anyway, it's good that we have the new Mazda store, we have Toyota, we'll have the new Lincoln franchise, we've got the new Jeep store, and these are all strong brands. They're not going anywhere. And either we're going to continue to do things on the street to, you know, it's a win-win. We're making a huge investment. We want people to want to come here, and we find that we get a lot of that. In fact, we're not open on Sundays. It's amazing how many people come in and drive through the lots on Sundays, even in the wintertime. You can't do that in a lot of areas. So we love being in Kent, and again, it all worked out and again, we're doing what we're doing because we want to do it, because it's part of our long-term plan. We feel that if we we make these investments and continue to invest in, that we've got everything we need to support these brands. There's going to continue to be more consolidation of the brands. You'll see more, some Lincoln stores, some Jeep stores and whatnot that will continue to consolidate, which just means somebody's buying them out and closing a point, which will draw more people to our location, and then we hire more people and everybody wins. So that's pretty much it. If anybody's got any questions for me, it's, like I said, it's not easy, but it's not rewarding when it's easy. And we're excited, but we're my mic all the time. That, you know, we got to pay for all of this, but it's good. It's a lot of work, but again, I really appreciate the help that we've got from Bridget and her team, because it's go back to what I said. It gives you the confidence to want to go forward, because you can always make an excuse of why not to do so. And this is the right thing to do, and we're going to, again, and we'll continue to look for places on the street that we can either clean up by, make part of our business, not because we want to own the whole street, just because we want it to be as attractive as possible. And we think we got a lot of good things, got a lot of positives in a world that's filled with negatives anymore. But anyhow, I'll shut up now. I spent too much time.
I did want to highlight, because you may not know this, but Longetano's is actually going to be the new enterprise site. It was kind of not, it's something we've been working with them on for a while, but it has now gone through the BZA and received the variances it needs. It's going to be going to Planning Commission for formalized approval. So they will be relocating there, and it'll be a significant, there's landscape buffering, reconfiguration. The building itself will remain the same, but of course it'll be cleaned up. So, and that, the Clavens actually own that building, and they are maintaining a long-term lease with Enterprise, so they're staying here in Kent. But they need the space. If you've ever gone by Enterprise, it's
quite small.
And it's actually a perfect site for it, because they have the entire back too. So.
All right, questions from council? Yes, Heidi.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you for that explanation and your investments, and this is, our auto row is very important to our economy here in Kent. And so we appreciate that. It is a real symbiotic relationship. We've done some of these kinds of CRAs in the past, or something similar that does involve sort of a forecast of the number of jobs that are going to be created. Is that something that you have?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's in the agreements that were attached to my memo. I can get them for you. So for the service center, it's actually going to be the employees. There's not an increase, because basically it's a service center expansion. And as Rich was explaining, it already is.
There's a retention, and the increase is small.
They've been yeah, exactly. But the dealership itself, it has the job commitments right here. So basically it'll maintain the current full-time employment of a 138, and part-time is 5. That's in Ohio. Wait. Let me get to the job one. Okay, at opening they have 6 full-time, and then at the end of 3 years there'll be 10 full-time.
Additions.
So, but they're retaining.
Yes.
Also.
Got it.
Yeah.
I understand that. So that's 10 FTE.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's just what's covered under the agreement. That doesn't include the ancillary hiring that they're doing. That isn't even, it's beyond the scope of these, which is ongoing.
Further questions from council? Yes, Robin.
Yeah, based on the move the federal government has made toward the electronic vehicle, and also the recent change regarding interest rates, what is your expectation from an income standpoint first off, future development in that area, but also business? It has to be pretty optimistic, actually.
Yeah. It would be really easy to be pessimistic, because of some of the things that I was talking about, like with the electrics having less moving parts. The first thing is they were pretty ambitious on some of the forecasts, and you can wish all you want, but ultimately you have to build the demand, and the demand, the infrastructure isn't there. What we're doing is we're building to that, and the reason why we're willing to make the investment we're making is that we know that our industry is going to continue to kind of develop and restructure itself a little bit. There's going to be less dealers. There'll be more throughput. But even if we just, they're talking about, I don't think by 2030 that we're going to be at 25% electric, let alone what they're talking about. And the fact that they're throwing so much money at it, it's still not happening, is probably a good indication. But my concern is I'm fine with internal combustion or electric. Some of the things that have happened over the last few years have caused a lot of people to be disenchanted on something that will probably be okay long term if we just allow it to evolve. For us, we could say, well, gee, that could hurt us because there's going to be less service work, but we know that even if they're continuing to build internal combustion engines through 2030, those vehicles are going to be on the road all the way to 2060. So it's a long time, and what we're seeing is that there's, I guess the best way I can explain it is this. Right now, if we wanted to, everybody who called or went online to make an appointment, if we could get them in within the next week, we could double our production right now. And so there's a huge amount of demand out there, and most of my peers don't believe in spending a lot of money in service department. It's too hard. It's too much at risk. We're seeing most of the independents go out of business because the cost of doing business is so high. In fact, we had an independent that came to work for us in the mobile service side. He had his own business for like almost 30 years, and we said, okay, well, tell us why. He said, because I can't service my customers the way I would like to because the cost of admission is so high. So I figured if I could come to work for you driving a mobile van, I could still service my customers the same way, but it's your resources. And there's more and more of that. And so and then the chains, they're commoditized. They're not going to get into anything that's difficult to do because there's too much risk at it, too much risk. So we know the business is going to be there. There's going to be less of us doing it. But we'll adapt. We'll adapt as time goes on. I think you're going to see a lot lower dealer count over time. The Publix are buying up a lot of stores, but eventually there's going to be a lot of these little stores that there's not going to be much value in. So it's and the cost of admission today is so high. When we moved here in 1973, you couldn't buy a Lincoln Navigator for what my dad was able to invest to get started in business. And it's astronomical. So if you're not already in it and you don't have any some economies of scale, it's just very, very difficult. And that's why you're seeing either the Publix come in or some of your big dealer groups are buying up, and a lot of them are buying them up because they want to get bought out. So we're seeing this consolidation happen, and sometimes these groups are coming in to buy these small groups, and they're just closing one of the stores because they know it's not viable. So we feel that there's quite a model. Plus, we don't know what's going to happen long term, and we'll just adapt. And the technicians of 20 years from now will be computer geniuses. And I tell you, we have an IT company that we pay a lot of money to. And sometimes I don't think they know any more than we do. But these techs, they can't fake it. And so these and oh, by the way, I refer to them as guys. We have 2 female techs with a 3rd one coming on board. And it's a very rewarding job. It's hard, and they can make good money, and they can go home at 5 o'clock and come back in, and their bays are filled up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's a great job, and that's really, as we grow and grow over time, even if the employee count doesn't skyrocket, our payroll will continue to go up. And we're fine with I have no problem with productive payroll. You know, if we got more and more techs and our payroll is going crazy, at least I know it's being paid for. It's people like me that are overhead. You know, I'm not producing anything.
Are there any more questions from council?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, Roger.
Yeah, first of all, being a neighbor about 4 blocks away, I always appreciate the efforts that the Clavin Group does in terms of really keeping their lots looking good. You guys are always improving. You're always, you know, have an empty lot and you see all the ceiling going on and all that. I think that's important. I think it sends a big message. I'm curious about where is the footprint of the new Lincoln dealership going to be?
It's gonna be the empty lot to where Enterprise, to the west of where
Okay.
Enterprise is now.
So it's going to be where, like, the market used to be and all that, right there. So that's going to be a new print. The last question is just to poke a little fun at you. Who's going to decide the color scheme? Is it going to be all gray or?
That's outside of the purview of council. I'm gonna have to.
Oh, no, that's a good point.
You don't have to answer that.
Anything that has the brand on it.
Yeah.
Like at the Lincoln side, I mean, you know, we have like one vendor we can buy furniture from. We could probably have it made for less.
Right.
So we pretty much, we have to just sign up and do what they tell you to do. And a lot of this stuff is just a waste of money, but it's the cost of admission. So a lot of that is based on, you know, like that colors you see were the colors that when we did the last renovation were the colors by per Ford that it had to be.
Yeah.
It's
You know, they put their and they're giving us a little bit of help. So but they have anytime we go to do something, if it's just like the city. If somebody goes in to an existing building and they do exactly the same in that building, there's not much you can do with it. But when we go to the manufacturers and we say, well, we're going to do something a little bit different, now they can tell us, okay, if you're going to do that, you have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And change it.
It's going to look great. I'm going to pause you right there.
Okay.
See if there's any other questions. We'll go to the audience and come back for a motion. All
Well,
right. Any other questions from council?
You guys don't want to be here all night listening.
No. We value everybody's time. We don't want to keep you here any longer than you need to be as well. So is there anyone from the audience that has a question? No? All right. Okay, we're coming back to council. So I'm just going to remind the council members that there's actually 2 CRA agreements. So the first, for those of you considering a motion, CRA agreement for Clavin new Lincoln dealership building would also require an emergency.
Move to authorize with the emergency.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion?
Nope.
Heidi, discussion? Nope. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so now we're going to move on. Should there be a motion for CRA agreement, Clavin renovation expansion of service center? And likewise, this would also, I believe Bridge is requesting an emergency as well. Is there a motion?
So moved.
With emergency.
With emergency.
I'll second.
All right, discussion?
Oh, I'd like to say something.
Yes.
Mr. Clavin, I am the council member for Ward 2, where your dealership is. And anything you can do to improve the aesthetics of that area, I'm very, very grateful for. So
Yes, we are.
I spend a lot more hours there than I do at home. And so, it's part of, we want it to be that way. It's just like we do it, our customers want it to be that way.
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
But if you see something that's not right,
I'll be in your office.
my phone.
Okay.
Further discussion? Yes, Robin.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of add to what Jack, thank you so much for your commitment to our city. So appreciative. You are such a value to us as a community. Want to thank you for committing your explanation tonight, for committing to where we're at, and to our staff who always is willing to work with. And thank you for pointing out what they've done and how accessible they are, and one of your reasons for wanting to stay here and understand exactly what this community's needs and what yours are. So we're very appreciative.
All right. All those in, yes, I'm sorry, yes, Chris?
I just want to add on, my wife and I had just bought an electric vehicle and are finding that, we're still in that moment where charging stations are hard to find, even with the expansion the university and the city are making. And we are so grateful to see all the Blink stations being built on Cleveland property. I had a chance to go over to one of the existing charging stations that you have and talk to a really nice person, one of your employees, who shared all the news, and I've wandered over there. I'm probably one of those Sunday drivers going into your lot and looking at the amazing infrastructure that's going to be so, as you say, creating demand. I think so many of my friends who want to buy electric vehicles in this area are thinking, where do we charge? Well, the answer is going to be 27 new stations in Kent with this new project, and then on your property.
You can find a level 2 that's energized now. We don't have it set up on the network yet because we're still waiting on Lincoln Electric to build a piece that this has been great. But eventually we'll have everything on the network. Some of them will be credit cards. Some of them you'll have to be part of an app.
An app, yeah.
And then we're just going to experiment. We're just going to see what it's like, and try to do the right thing. So any feedback you have is we're doing the same. I drive an electric, so I can relate, and I'm very fortunate I haven't gotten a ticket yet.
All right.
I do notice a dearth of the superchargers, the level 3 in this area.
All right. I'm going to have to actually, we're going to pause and we're going to vote because we have other things on the agenda we have to get to. But it's excellent. It sounds great. We're working on charging. There's all kinds of good stuff going on. I love it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
All right, up next we have a design recommendation on proposed exterior facade alterations to West 265 West Main Street.
Yes,
Bridget.
and this is similar to last month where we had 252 North Water, because we no longer have an active ARB right now, but yet we have the requirements that projects in the overlay that have changes to the exterior facade be reviewed, even for a recommendation. I have this before council. The building at 265 West Main, which is often known as the old Bissler Furniture Building, was acquired, and they have been working on a concept project to do basically a speakeasy themed restaurant on the lower floor and have a patio expanding out. I did include the Portage County aerial map of this because when you're looking at the renderings, I wanted you to understand it's the area basically that's north of the trail, but they actually own that. There's an easement agreement for the trail and the bike access stairs that go down there. So you can look at the renderings, which I attached, but simply they're constructing an enclosed addition on the northeast corner with the same coloring as the existing building to house a commercial kitchen. They're doing a clear panel roof covering attached to the building with white support posts. Immediately attached to the exterior east facade. They're installing concrete outside patio area that's going to incorporate outdoor wood and brick inlay patterns. They're also going to install a stone partition wall and a black rail fencing to separate dining areas from existing green space. Replacing the double pane windows along the east facade, and replacing an existing door with a new glass door. They'll be installing new stairs and a handrail that leads to the existing bike and hike trail, and a brick inlay raised stone base for a light post near the trail.
Very cool.
So I can answer any questions you might have about that, but in order for us to move this forward for Planning Commission consideration, we need to have the facade changes recommendation made by council.
All right. Questions from council? That's great. Anyone from the audience have questions? All right, back to council.
Move. Was that Chris?
Did someone?
Robin.
Robin.
Oh,
Robin?
With emergency.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion? No discussion? All righty, back to council. I guess we never left. What's it?
I was just going to say, I do want to say something, that this is, this has been a long time coming. It's a great, great location, in my opinion. There may be some concerns, but I think that that neighborhood just continues to get more and more vibrant, and this is just another piece of that. It's great that it's right off our bike trail, and what can I say? It's going to enhance the downtown, expand the downtown, continue that.
Further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for community development. Moving into health and public safety, Mr. Amory.
Yes, we have one thing on the agenda, and that's Chief Samuel's paramedicine program. Chief Samuels?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
He's spending $7 million. What is that?
Yeah, really.
Doesn't get any better.
I used to think I had perfect eyes. Clearly I don't. Sarah's setting up her PowerPoint over here.
One of these, so take a look at it, pass
Oh,
it down, I'll
very
talk
good.
about it.
Okay.
You good, Sarah?
Wow.
This seems to have had better days.
Did you break it?
I didn't break it.
Yeah, it is broken.
It is broken. Duct tape fixes everything, doesn't it? We need duct tape. Okay, I'll just hold this. All right, you set, Sarah? Okay, thank you, council, for having me here tonight. Believe it or not, this has been a long time coming with your agenda. For a few months, we've been trying to get in, and there's just been so much work going on. This is our first chance, so thank you. Good evening. I'm here tonight to update City Council on our paramedicine program that began about 2 years ago. Paramedicine is a newer mindset of community health that looks into preventative ways that we can have a more engaging way to deal with the at-risk needs and population in our community. I'm joined by Sarah Slanina, who is our paramedicine provider, that I feel is uniquely qualified for her position as our paramedicine provider. That is because she's both a registered nurse with a lot of experience as well as a paramedic. And she does have, in her previous life, even experience as a firefighter. So her ability to operate within, under the roof of the fire department and know the needs of the people that we deal with, as well as the nursing element of it, is a wide array of knowledge. And that gives her, again, the ability to intervene better. But I would be remiss before I let her speak if I didn't thank Joan Seidel, our health director, because really this paramedicine program wouldn't exist without Joan Seidel. Joan Seidel, our health director, received a federal workforce development grant in 22. That's a 5-year grant, 22 to 27. That would have provided a nurse in her clinic 4 days a week. But understanding from our previous chief and her collaborating the ability for a paramedicine program to work in collaboration with her nurse clinic, she essentially loaned that position 2 days a week to the fire department to develop this program. So again, I don't want to go any farther without council being aware how this program began, who was really at the foundation of it, and now where it's going. And so I would like to introduce Sarah Slanina.
All right.
Hi, so I'm Sarah. I just wanted to get a little bit more of my background. Thank you, Chief Samuels. I did work for local fire departments for 20 years, firefighter, paramedic, and 18 years in local ERs as a nurse. But EMS has always been my passion. So this job opportunity came up, and It is perfect for me, and I love what I do. I don't know, I know we have several new council members since I first spoke a couple years ago when we started the program. Community paramedicine is fairly new in this area. We're only the second program in Northeast Ohio.
Wow.
And since then, several others have started. But, it's in this area, it's fairly new. I quickly describe it as EMS prevention. We have main objectives. I might not have enough hands for this. To improve the health of at-risk community members by decreasing 911 usage, reducing emergency department admissions and readmissions, and connecting our residents to services. So what does this mean for the city? I find out what they need and I fix it. So who do I see? I get my referrals from several different places. The main area I get them from is our fire department. When they go out on EMS calls, they see a resident that they can see needs some extra assistance, and they usually will tell them about me and ask if I can call them, and then they send me a referral internally, and I'll follow up with them. I've also get referrals from city departments, our PD, our health department, the building department we've gotten referrals from. I also just look at our calls, look at our frequent followers and our frequent callers. And I do collaborate with outside agencies, Coleman, our mental health, and when they need our help in the city, we work together to help. So these are a handful of people that we've made a huge impact with, and I just wanted to talk about them. Without this program, these particular people wouldn't have got the help they needed when they did. This lady, she's 73 years old. I went and visited with her. She had had falls, and she was not safe at home. There's many fall risks, mostly her declining health. And after my visit, she ended up going to the hospital, and her daughter called me in tears because they were getting ready to send her back home. So I was able to get Dr. Hill, who will talk, he's my med control from UH Portage. He called the hospital doctor, and I called her primary care doctor and sent them my report, and they got her into a facility that day where she is doing very well. So this is a young gentleman. He was 28 years old. He had a very rare neurological disease called adrenoleukodystrophy, which I'd never heard of, and most of his doctors hadn't heard of. So he was having a really hard time getting the help he needed. He was really declining in health and at home, and his mother was at her wit's end on getting him the help he needed. We were able to advocate for him. Dr. Hill actually came in, went on the EMS call, and went with him to the hospital and to talk and to tell him the history and what he needed, and he got admitted. And I can see by his mom's text, she was very thankful to us for that. This is a young man that I met at Kent Social Services, and I was going to talk about that later, but I go there every Thursday and take blood pressures and blood sugars. And over the months, I kept talking to him and just discovering that he was living in a dangerous situation with his family, taking advantage of him for his Social Security check. And there is a new Portage County Guardianship Board that had just been created, so I was able to get them involved, and they took guardianship, and he's now in a group home, and I try and go visit him every few months, and he's doing amazing. Preventing EMS calls. This was a gentleman with chronic COPD, and my second visit there, I noticed a maintenance medication there that he hadn't been taking, and because he didn't know how. He never told me, he never told his doctors, and he had been calling EMS multiple times. And after he learned how to take that, he's not had to call 911 since. And I recently talked to him, he's doing amazing. So. So one of my main initiatives is also fall prevention in the city. I just got some stats today. Unintentional falls in ages 65 and older are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries in the U.S. and Ohio. Older adults make up 18% of the Ohio population, yet they account for 88% of the unintentional fall deaths across the state. In 2022, there were 1,717 65 years and older who died as a result of unintentional falls, and that was a 4% increase over 2021. These are our number of calls year to date, so each year it was January 1st through September 29th is when I ran these numbers, and the number of calls, and that's the percentage of total EMS calls that were falls and lift assist. So in a time when deaths are increasing, my 2 days a week that I'm able to do this program, we're decreasing the amount of falls in the city. So some of the programs that I've started in the city, I've created a Community Partners Coalition. We meet once a month. We meet here in this room, and it's all different community partners, the mental health, social services, Access Point. They all come and we work. We have been talking, we all help the same people, but we needed to coordinate. And so we meet once a month and talk about what's going on and what we can do to help. And I've started having speakers come and talk because there's a lot of programs that we just need to get the education out that are available. I talked about Ken Social Services, going once a week, work with the homeless, help with their doctor's appointments, getting medical care they need. Also talk about housing. I've been able to get a few in the housing. Access Point does come with me on Thursdays, and he is able to make appointments immediately for the people that need it. I want to work on getting Coleman to come with me every Thursday, and also Legal Services I've been talking to come in maybe once every couple months to help. We recently were able to get a blood testing machine that just tests the basic chemistries, and we want to use that to help alleviate unnecessary 911 calls or admissions to the hospital. Most of the nursing homes, when they call with abnormal labs, we can go and check and see if they still are abnormal or if it was a lab error. Also, on my visits, we can see how if people need to make an appointment or go to the hospital or can stay home. I also got certified to be a car seat installation. We've had several car seat days in the city where we come check. We've also had our PD call when they've had to pull people over and saw car seats were tied in with shoestrings, and we were able to fix that.
That's interesting.
And I did become board certified, national board certified in community paramedicine. So healthy people every year, 10 years, by the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion, they set data-driven national objectives to improve health and well-being over the next decade. The social determinants of health are a major impact on people's health and well-being, and they're a key focus of Healthy People 2030. So where I come in is health care access and quality. And I do that by reducing ED visits, increase preventative health care, increase community organizations by networking community agencies that come to the people, connecting people to prescription resources and dental clinics, educating the public on uses of primary care physicians, urgent care, and emergency room. So some additional benefits to the City of Kent are economic development. Cities that have community paramedicine programs attract citizens to relocate to the city and then help retain the citizens we already have. And that is healthy communities are also higher earners. These are some of the positive outcomes. I've talked about most of them already that the program has done, and I want to continue to do. So the future of the program is one of the things we're actively working on is what is called CAME certification. It's a Commission on Accreditation of Medical Transport Systems. It's an international certification that has us adhere to standards to provide the safest and efficient care that is evidence-based and ethically ran. It is a comprehensive review of our policies and procedures, ensuring they are up to date, aligned with the highest standards of safety and care. And we are currently working on becoming the first paramedicine program to get certified in Ohio. I also would like to follow up on all falls and lift assists on every single one we have, calling and following up to see what we can do to prevent future ones. I would like to work with hospice organizations. They work with community paramedicine programs and when one of their patients calls 911 to help us go out and help prevent an unnecessary transport. And another thing, this is on the future, but it actually just started. We started an overdose prevention team and follow-up response team, actually is what it's called. We partnered, the fire department, the police department, and Town Hall 2 have all partnered together. If there's any fatal overdose in the city, we call Town Hall 2, and they will respond immediately to the scene with a social worker to help with the resources for the family. And for any non-fatal overdose, we'll all get together and within 72 hours follow up with the person and family and provide resources, and we give out Narcan to help prevent future. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Hill. He is my med control doctor. He's a fire department med control, and he is also over my program, and he has been very supportive.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Hill. I'm one of the ED physicians at UH Portage. I'm also the medical director here for Kent Fire Department. Sarah has done a fantastic job. UH has started 6 programs in total for paramedicine, and we use Kent as the kind of cookie cutter to roll out these programs in other places. So all the way from East Palestine, as you might know, is getting money for their train accident, all the way through, I believe, Westlake's probably the farthest we go. We've got 6 programs in between. One of the things that I like to do is I like numbers, so I kind of focused on the numbers of what Sarah's been doing. So Sarah's only been here for 2 years now, so not a lot of data, and unfortunately, looking at the data, COVID was in there, so it kind of screwed up some of the numbers, because we saw COVID, EMS calls go down during COVID, so skews some of the numbers, so these aren't necessarily the best. However, for the first 2 years, she saved the department about $14,000 in fuel costs. So it's hard to do this, but essentially fuel costs and wear and tear on the trucks. So she doing those cost savings, because we have to have those 2 gentlemen back there, our firefighters, always available, but having them available for other things, those are our fixed costs. Our variable costs are what we actually spend on fuel, trucks, and maintenance, and that costs around 11% of each call. So with all of her cost savings, she's done 123 runs for the past years, and that has essentially saved us, for every 3 calls she goes on, she actually saves 1 EMS call to the station. So she goes and visits 3 people. 1 of those people won't make a phone call to 911 services going forward. So accounts for about $14,000 in annual savings for her. So she's doing a fantastic job. I don't think that we have anyone as, I don't want to say productive, but as productive as she is in savings to the whole healthcare system, because that's one of the problems is the healthcare system starts, and the tip of that spear is EMS. It's what the fire department does. I'm that next layer in the emergency department. If I'm busy, I know they're busy. If we can reduce those calls at where they kind of start in the community, it decreases wait times and load on the hospital and the emergency department. And if I'm decreasing my load, I decrease on the hospital, and it kind of all kind of goes downhill, hospital to nursing, rehab facilities, those sorts of things. And then that reunification of that patient back into the community. So by decreasing all that volume, we're going to see a healthier community. That's all that I think we have. So do you guys have questions for us?
Any questions? Heidi?
Yeah. I think I saw this program mentioned on the Franklin Township's website. Do you service Franklin Township?
Sure.
The fire department covers the city of Kent and Franklin Township and Sugar Bush Knolls, so I do respond to theirs.
Have you had many calls for those adjacent communities?
I have had none in Sugar Bush Knolls. Franklin Township, there have been some. I didn't run the numbers. It's a smaller percentage. Yeah.
But it's nice. Okay, well, that, and they pay for those runs and everything, so it does contribute. But it also serves the greater Kent area, really.
Yes.
Len?
It does. And I would just like to say that, you know, everybody is aware of fire prevention, the side of our business where we go in schools, teach kids about fire safety, and that teaching even goes all the way up through the college level, believe it or not. There's not many things we do that appear to be preventative on the EMS side. We react to the calls as they present themselves. But this is unique. This is one of those things. And I will tell you that about 3/4 of the calls we run on are EMS related. So not only is this excellent that we have this right in Kent, all of the things she covered and highlighted are just being done in the 2 days of the week that she's here and not at the health clinic. But I will tell you, when I've called around some of these other fire departments in the state of Ohio and just intrigued and asking them about their paramedicine program, there has not been one person that was a registered nurse and a paramedic. Every single person at every department was a firefighter paramedic like me, that this is a service their department is beginning, and they just chose to, you know, I can do that. I really like preventative EMS stuff, and yeah, I'll take that daytime job, and so they've done that. So again, when I introduced her and said she was uniquely qualified, that's what I was, elaborating on, is the idea that she is somebody that she's a gem for us here at the fire department. And I think even some of the guys coming down here would attest to the same thing, and they'd say, wow, I mean, her impact in just 2 days a week at the fire department is incredible. So I'm not asking you for anything. I just want council to have an awareness of this fantastic program that's going on and the things we're trying to do, especially after last meeting. I heard, a speaker about the homeless population. Sarah engages with a lot of the homeless population, those with really unstable mental health problems in the city. These are the people that she is interacting with daily. And again, I think all of us as citizens want something good to be done for those people. And it's happening right here with Sarah.
Gwen, you had a question?
I did. So first of all, congratulations. Thank you, Joan, very much.
you.
Congratulations. This is an outstanding program, and our residents are so truly lucky to have all of you working together on it. My question is whether there's a cost to residents, whether it's something that's billed to insurance, or if our if our non or underinsured residents can also access this should they need it.
So there is no cost. Unfortunately for our state, in most states, there's only a couple that allow billing. The Medicare sets a standard for community paramedicine. We're working on it. I know it's in Columbus somewhere floating around, but until then, we can't charge for it.
Okay, so it's free for all of our residents then?
Correct.
For the time being. Okay. Thank you.
Robin?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I have a comment. First, I want to reach out to Joan. Joan, thank you for stepping up, being proactive. As a person who has a chronic health issue, and I met Sarah last week. She was down here at Gateway. They were doing information outreach. Our city understands, working through Joan, you meet people where they are. Being proactive is an imperative when you're talking about health issues. I know. Last week I went to the hospital, even after seeing you, because even though I knew there was something wrong, I didn't necessarily know what. Your accessibility is a real benefit when you're talking about people who are health compromised. Our ability to be able to have access to you prior to having a kind of catastrophic health issue is, again, an imperative. And knowing about you there are situations out there that could have been catastrophic that didn't turn out to be, because people interacted with you. And again, like I said, that goes through having a person who has Jones sensibilities. I want to commend you and the fire department for doing what you do as a person who is impacted as far as health concerns go. So Joan actually, to her credit or discredit, has actually saved my life on a couple of occasions, literally speaking. And now she's done the same thing for, there are members of the community who may have ended up in a much dire circumstance had you not been there for them. So, tip of the hat to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further questions? Roger?
No, I just wanted to mention that I think, and this strikes me as a 50-year resident in the city of Kent, I don't think we appreciate the excellence of our city. We have these threads of outstanding things that go on. The average citizen doesn't know about it, doesn't view it, because they may not need the services. I always think that I see our community as a beautiful tapestry of excellence, but it's made up of individual threads. And this is an example of that. And to me, I just think it just speaks to who we are as a community, and I really appreciate that. That's who we are. And I know that's who you guys are too, so thank you.
Thank you, Council. We appreciate it.
No action needed. Thank you very much.
I think I just have to lay this down because it doesn't look like it's going to be duct tape.
You've been eating your Wheaties, huh?
Do something with it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's yours. Just show it to Sarah. She'll fix it.
Yeah, right.
Next month it'll have duct tape on it.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for health and safety. Streets and sidewalks and utilities, Mr. Sidoti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a resolution on the table to proceed of the East Main Street Improvement Project, and I see it's going to be Hope.
Yes, it is, sir. Back in July, you all passed a resolution of a notice of intent to appropriate a property on the East Main Street Public Improvement Project. And as you'll recall, that property was had two owners, and from the beginning of Jim's negotiation with this property, the gentleman just said, you know, I just want to go to court. So this is the second ordinance in that process, and once you pass this, we will pass the case on to an outside attorney to finish the work of appropriation.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, back to council.
Do you need a motion? I would move to authorize
With the emergency?
the emergency, yes.
Second.
Further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. There you go, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
again, I apologize for the helter-skelter of our agenda, but time-wise with different things, that's the best we could have done. We're going to go into an executive session now.
I'll move an executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, the sale of property at competitive bidding, or the sale of other disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property. Second, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. And third, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
And Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Okay, we'll give a couple minutes to clear the room and use the room of necessity.
Yeah, we've been here
Marcus
since
said
what?
go.
Huh?
Everybody's making a run for it.
I had trouble standing.
My watch has been yelling at me.
Yeah, I know. There's only one problem with Sarah. There's only one of her.
Yeah. She's good.
She's perfect. And honestly, Jamie wants her full-time. And I said, sure. And then Joan's like, well, you can't do that.
Right.
I
Because
need
the
her.
grant comes from the health department, right? So, yeah. But I'll tell you, Joan, when she became the health commissioner, she found all sorts of things that unfortunately were not even considered by previous two.
No.
You know, we used to do that.
She's very good.
Move around, man.
No one ever had. What was his name? The guy.
Jeff.
Jeff Niceties.
Yes, that was the main driving factor, honestly.
It always bothered me how he would laugh.
Well, yes.
That was awesome.